Hey everybody, it's Derek here. So we're doing a bit of a live stream, or an actual live stream, I suppose. And we're going to be looking at the games that are coming up 2022. So I've broken them down into two categories. We've got games that have an actual release date, that have a day, a month, and a year, and the year is this year that they'll be coming out. And then the second category is this year, some point. They've said it will be this year. So that was a requirement to get on the list, and the other requirement was I had to actually care about the game in the slightest. So we have 42, I think it's 41 games that we'll be looking at. So we'll get started here. The first one we're going to look at is called, press the right button. It's called Pupperazzi. So this will be out on the 20th of January, coming to PC, where you will be... Let me put on desktop audio for this so you can hear it. Let me tone down the volume a little bit so you can still hear me speak. So this game is from a developer called Sunday Month. That's Sunday like ice cream, not the day of the week. And it is your requirement to go around this island and take photographs of dogs and pet the dogs and, you know, basically have a fun time. So it's a bit Pokemon Snap, where you will be just walking about this area, collecting dog treats and giving them to dogs and trying to catch them in particular situations. And I think it's kind of hilarious in the way that the dogs have like zero animation. they just kind of rotate the model a little bit to make it look like they're running. But it looks like it'll be a fun time. I think this was announced like 2 years ago, maybe. Coming to PC. It's going to be on Steam. I think it's Epic Games as well. So you can get like different criteria, maybe to get the dogs dancing or to get them to wear a hat or something like that. So that kind of thing. But I think it should be a fun time and I'm looking forward to playing it anyway. So that'll be out 20th January. So soon enough, actually. And if you wanted to look at a bit more of Sunday Month, you'll find them on itch.io. The next game is Monark. Monark reminds me pretty heavily of... there's a lot of Shin Megami Tensei and a lot of Persona to it, in that it's Japanese and there's red and black everywhere and they have like alter egos or whatever. I'm pretty sure that music will be copyrighted, so I'm going to toggle off of that. But anyway... This is a tactical RPG by Furyu, a developer I've never heard of, but I'm reasonably certain they've made other games, but I couldn't find any of them. But anyway, you've got this party of people who engage in tactical RPG shenanigans, so you'll be able to actually position people on the battlefield and engage in battle with different enemies. Storyline, no idea. I'm mostly just basing this on its art style. I think it has a really nice art style, and it gives me pretty heavy Persona vibes from what I've seen and from other gameplay I've seen of it. It doesn't exactly play like Persona. Persona is like a JRPG, a pretty typical turn-based, whereas this is a tactics RPG, so a little bit different. But it's obviously very edgelord and very anime. I'm very much here for it. So that's February even, and I have it down as January, but it's not, apparently, as this trailer would suggest. It is actually February. So these might be a little bit out of order. Next up, Dying Light 2, Stay Human, potentially the sequel to Detroit, Become Human, and it'll turn out that both of those were stealth prequels to Silicon Knights 2 Human. They said we'd never get a trilogy because the first one bombed, but all those years later, now we're here. So let me toggle the audio back over. So yeah, that is Rosario Dawson. So this is by Techland, who are obviously responsible for the original Dying Light and also for Dead Island. Both games very, very similar. What I want to say about this. So we're going to skip this trailer ahead because there's a lot of talking and a lot of story stuff that's not super important, really. Dying Light is kind of zombies, and you still need to set up society with the zombies and learn to live with the zombies, basically. And also sometimes the zombies are vampires, maybe? It's hard to tell. But the real thing that I'm very interested in to see in Dying Light 2 is all of the parkour stuff, because Mirror's Edge is a good game, and Mirror's Edge Catalyst was not a good game. So I still need to get some first-person parkour in somewhere. So I'm really hoping that this will live up to that kind of thing. You can see if we jump really far ahead, really far ahead. Maybe I should stop skipping and actually just get to that part. Is it here? No, it's after this. It's after this. There's a big combat section right after this that gives you a pretty good idea. So there's like first-person melee, which never really works. I don't think I've ever seen a game that first-person melee is actually satisfying. Skyrim, it always feels like you're just clicking your mouse at people or just pressing a button and animations happen. It never feels like you're actually in combat. And this game's, it doesn't really give me the same sensation. I don't know. For whatever reason, third-person melee always feels more satisfying than first-person melee. But anyway, that's not really the interesting parts. It's the parkour stuff for Dying Light is what I'm really interested in. And we'll see a bit of it here. All right, so we've got some fairly intricate maps. The map itself is quite large. Outside of like the minute-to-minute gameplay, you have like factions that you'll be working with and trying to curry favor with various different ones, getting different favors from them, and kind of performing quests. And you'll have to like choose which faction you want to give the benefit to. Like there's one in this trailer where they turn back on an electrical substation, and it's who do you route the power to? You know, which faction do you bring it to? There's context-sensitive melee potentially there, or parrying, where he threw the guy off the building instead of just throwing him regularly, and that kind of thing. Anyway, there was a story that came out recently that Dying Light 2 would take 500 hours to complete, which does. I think I had a lot of people thinking, "Are you being serious right now? This like." Games are already kind of too long as it is, and now you're making one that is like 4 times longer than some of the longest games out there. But yeah, as it turns out, it's 500 hours if you do literally everything. Max out like all of your stats and all of the factions and find every single corner of the map, every single floor in the buildings, and so on. So it's not quite as bad as it would have sounded. Anyway, there's more to that trailer. It's actually fairly long, but we'll skip to the next game. And we'll toggle the music back on while I find it. So this is Sifu. And it'll play any second now. So Sifu is coming out 8th of February. So soon enough. This is an overview trailer where they actually changed the release date and brought it forward. So I guess they're probably didn't want it to be out in and around the same time as Horizon, maybe. So this is from I forget the name of the developer now. Slowclap. Slowclap made Absolver, which was an MMO martial arts game, and had combat that was very similar to Sifu. There is a lot of combat in this. And the combat breaks down into different things that he says here. But some of the more interesting stuff is how you do evading, because there's more to it than just... that's at full volume, I just realized. Sorry about that. What was I saying? So dodging and evading and parrying, there's more to it than just pressing the dodge button. It's like you need to duck under enemies or jump over low attacks and stuff like that. And the Surge had a bit of that. You had multiple different types of dodging, where Sifu seems to be going a bit further with something like that. But it also has a considerable number of contextual melee stuff. So like, yes, you have picking up weapons, but you can also like slam people into like the bar, push them up against a wall, you know, throw them over railings and that kind of thing. So like your environment plays a pretty heavy role in Sifu, and that'll be out soon enough. But one of the biggest gameplay mechanics, I guess, that doesn't come up in this trailer is that Sifu has a kind of interesting death mechanic in that if you die or if you are knocked out or whatever, you age. So you will like... I'd say you probably start the game off at 25. This seems like probably what that is. Maybe this is a developer build and they can't die, so they're 25 for the whole thing. But you can see in the trailer he is aging. And now they have said that you can't age out of the game. So either there's an age cap, or you could like keep playing to be like 200 or something. I don't know. I guess it's also not stated how, like, does a death bring you forward 1 year? Does it bring you forward 5 years? You know, it hasn't been stated. Maybe it's the further along the game goes, the more you age. So let's now quick check in with the chat here. Sorry, Automaka, that is indeed a great many tabs I have open. There are 41 games we're going to be looking at, and we've looked at a couple there now. Why can't I see the chat on my tablet? That's not helpful. Oh well, maybe I can just go to the channel and look at it there instead. Chat. No, still no. Okay, weird. Anyway, I can see you on that. So what do we think? What do we think of those games so far? We have Pupperazzi, Monark, Dying Light 2, Sifu. Probably Sifu is the one I'm probably most interested in. I am looking to see like a more melee focused kind of brawler game, and I am pretty into brawler type games, so that will be pretty interesting to me. Maybe I'll close some of these tabs so it doesn't get so ridiculous. Let's close a few of them. Okay, maybe it's not as bad now. Okay, Martha is Dead is a horror title, like a psychological horror game from Wired Productions. It is set in 1944 Italy. He kind of follows the sort of, what's he call it? Urban legend of the White Lady, who is someone who died in this lake, and she comes back every so many years or something to like take young women or whatever like that who are spurned by their lover or something like that. But anyway, Martha is Dead is kind of following this. Your sister is Martha, I believe, in this game, and is potentially she was killed by this White Lady, and that's the way it will be going. What looks interesting, and you won't really actually see too much of it in the trailer, is that it is very like photorealistic. There's a lot of PT, and I don't mean that in the sense that it's like a looping corridor or something like that. I mean more like it's just like very, very realistic graphical quality. Again, not really coming across in the trailer, but in some of the gameplay segments that I've seen, I believe there's a demo of it on PC at the moment that you can check out. That sounded pretty painful. Is that a decapitated head? Anyway, probably should have said content warning there. Anyway, that's Martha is Dead, which will be out on 24th of February this year. Even though it says coming 2021, it was delayed to this year. Let's check chat again, because apparently my tablet does not want to pick up on it. Anyway, it's not there now. For whatever reason. Maybe it's just first time chats don't come through. Maybe that's what it is. Anyway. Right, Elden Ring. So Elden Ring is by From Software. From Software are the people responsible for Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, that kind of thing. So like really, really punishing melee games. So this is a fairly lengthy trailer, and I've talked about this before on the channel. We did like a pretty long look at this trailer. We're showing off a lot of new mechanics because this is a very big map. And despite like the Dark Souls and Bloodborne having fairly large maps, they were also kind of linear. There were only so many places you could go, and the maps kind of like wrapped around themselves, and there were shortcuts and that kind of thing. So what's different here is that there is a very large open map where you can kind of just go wherever you want, but there are like suggested places, we'll say, that when you sit down at this game's bonfire equivalent, it will kind of point out areas of interest that you might want to check out. So that's one way that the game might direct you. You do have this big overland map, which has been likened to something like Breath of the Wild. And here comes a dragon to ruin your day. This dragon has been in the trailer a couple of times. It's a pretty interesting looking boss fight in that it can throw lightning bolts like Zeus, which is pretty interesting. I think it's this dragon. It might be a different one. Or a wyvern, I guess, since it only has 2 legs, not 4 legs, whatever. Anyway, this trailer is fairly lengthy. It does show off a good bit of Elden Ring, and Elden Ring has had a number of, what do you call it? Betas, closed beta tests and network tests, so some footage has come out from them, even though it's not supposed to, because you're meant to be under NDA. That's why it's closed, but whatever. This will be, I was going to say it will be featured on the channel, but I don't know, because, you know, these games are hard, and I don't want to, like, record myself being shit at it. So who knows? Additionally to the big overland map, there are underground catacombs. Maybe I can get to that part. Skip. No, this is Jolly Cooperation. So yes, there will be co-op. So, okay, fine. This isn't the underground catacomb thing, but it kind of illustrates the same point in that there are areas in the game that are considerably more like a Dark Souls dungeon. Like they're like a distinct area with lots of crisscrossing shortcuts and enemies waiting behind corners to push you off ledges and that kind of stuff. Anyway, that's Elden Ring. Then we have Babylon's Fall, which is by Capcom. No, Platinum Games. I was thinking of Deep Down or Deep Dive or whatever the hell it's called that we're never going to see, which is from Capcom, which looks very similar. So Babylon's Fall is kind of taking the idea of the Tower of Babel, or Babel. I don't know how you pronounce that. And the idea is, it's an affront to God, and he's cast the people down, and, people no longer understand each other or whatever. But the way the game is using it is effectively an infinite dungeon reaching up into the sky. And if you choose, a couple of your friends can come in and scale the dungeon and fight fun boss fights and collect loot and that kind of thing. So think of it as like the original Diablo, in that it's a dungeon crawler or dungeon descent, or in this case it's an ascent. But you pick your play style, you collect loot, you improve your equipment, you do 0 damage over and over again. I guess maybe you need to get some better weaponry. One interesting thing is that there are like multiple different weapons available to you, and you can swap them out at any time. You can see them all on your back, and it's by Platinum Games, and Platinum are very good for action titles. One issue though with Platinum Games is that their games are either really good or really bad. It's always one or the other. I don't think they have any okay games. Their games are either very, very good or very, very bad. So hopefully this will be one of the good ones. Stuff I have been hearing about it though is that maybe not. So I guess we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. That's Babylon's Fall, and that is scheduled for release on the 3rd of March. We have Triangle Strategy. Triangle Strategy, as the name might suggest, is a strategy RPG, so it's a bit like Final Fantasy Tactics, and we haven't seen one of those games in a very, very long time. So there's a good bit of like buzz about this game because of that, because it seems very similar to the games of old. Can we get to an actual action? Kinda, not really. I guess this trailer is really more of a story trailer, I suppose. But anyway, it's a tactical RPG with elevated levels. You can place your characters and move them about the place. Having characters in particular situations can, as you saw there, you can push enemies off walls and that kind of thing. Having an elevated position means you can drop down on enemies, or for ranged characters, it means their attacks will cover further distance and that kind of thing. I've played the 2 demos that came out, and they're a lot of fun, but they're actually quite difficult. They're so difficult that they decided to add in an easy mode afterwards. Like, feedback from the demos was, this is a bit hard. This is a bit hard. Maybe tone it down a little bit. Maybe for people who haven't played many strategy RPGs like myself, maybe we'll tone it down a bit. And then there were people who were like, straight up, make the game harder, please, which is pretty good too. But anyway, I think the demo is still available up on the Switch, and as of now, this is a Switch exclusive. But I imagine you'll probably see it on PC at some point. This is from Square Enix, so it's not like a first-party title. March 4th, as the trailer says, and if you're interested, check out the demo. It's actually quite a lot of fun. Okay, we've got Tunic. So Tunic is a Legend of Zelda inspired game, like some of the older Legend of Zelda games. You might as well just say, what if Link's, but Link's was a Link's? What if Link was a fox? That's what I wanted to say. And you'll get Tunic. That's basically it. It has actually been in development for ages. I think it's been in early access also for a while, but it is actually getting its full final release on is that the 10th or the 16th? 16th of March. It'll be Xbox and PC, so you will be able to get it on Steam or the Epic Game Store, or if you have an Xbox, you'll be able to get it there. It might even be on Game Pass, if you're lucky. So if you were a big fan of the older Legend of Zelda titles, so like the kind of more dungeon crawly stuff, as opposed to like Breath of the Wild and Twilight Princess, Ocarina of Time, that kind of thing, going all the way back to like Link to the Past, that sort of stuff. Probably like Tunic. There's a lot of gameplay of that out on the old internet if you wanted to check it out. Fun little fox friend doing Legend of Zelda shenanigans, that kind of thing. Little miffed that it's not going to be on the PlayStation. This means I will have to actually resurrect my Steam account and actually use it. But I'll have to do that for Pupperazzi anyway, so I guess it's fine. Tunic. And we have the Chaos game. The game you may know better as the guy who just shouts chaos randomly. Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. This is what if Final Fantasy was Dark Souls, more or less. It's probably more correct to say what if Final Fantasy was Neo, because this is from the same developer. This is from Team Ninja, and they are responsible for, among other things, but they're responsible for the Neo series, which was basically what if Dark Souls was in Japan. That's it. That's kind of what they went with. It's a bit more action focused. I mean, I know Dark Souls is like pretty heavy on melee action or whatever, but Neo took it to a much higher degree, much heavier focus on loot and that sort of thing. And it seems like Square Enix came to Koei Tecmo and just said, "Hey, maybe instead of Neo 3, you just make a Final Fantasy, but you just use all of the Neo stuff to do it." So that's pretty much what's happening here. It is an attempt to retell the very first Final Fantasy game, so the story of the first Final Fantasy. That's why it's Final Fantasy Origin, but make it Dark Souls, pretty much. And they have, unfortunately, at least for the English language versions of these games, they've toned down how often the guy says chaos, which is bullshit. They should have leaned into that. It was too funny. I have also played the two betas for this that came out. They're really good. I really like them. There's a lot of mechanics going on, so which is very Neo. You know, you've got a lot of different parrying. You've got a lot of different weapon sets that you can swap between very easily, very quickly. It's not quite like Dark Souls. You kind of had a very limited amount of abilities that you just sort of had to do your best with and apply them to different things, whereas Neo gave you too many abilities, really, and you just weren't sure what to use them with. I'm sort of hoping they meet in the middle somewhere and just have a nice repertoire of skills and stuff you can use. But anyway, it was a lot of fun, and it is pretty tough. You know, you do die fairly often. But it's also kind of friendlier. You do have sort of like an overpower mode where you're, you know, a little invincible for a while. Neo had something similar. So there's a lot of Neo, basically, in Final Fantasy Origin. And you also have Tiamat for no reason. I didn't mean to pause. I meant to skip, actually. But whatever. You've got a 5-headed dragon that you can just fight. So that's cool. Right? Anyway. Final Fantasy Origin, or Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin, will be 18th of March, 2022. Then we've got Rafael Colantonio, creative director on Weird West. This is Weird West. Weird West is by Wolf Eye Studios, and they are former developers for Arcane. So they've worked on stuff like Dishonored and Prey, so like immersive sim type games. And if you're not familiar, immersive sim games are System Shock, Deus Ex, Prey and Dishonored. Arcane make a lot of. Practically all they've made. Basically, it's Fallout and Elder Scrolls are also immersive sims. Actually, this guy talking some, which is kind of throwing me off, so I'm going to mute him. I'm going to put the music on instead. He's a little difficult to talk over. But basically, you can interact with the environment kind of in any way you want. Pick stuff up, move stuff around, interact with people more or less the same way, set stuff on fire, propagate the fire around the place to, come into rooms and enemies and that sort of thing. There's a lot going on. It's basically like a true sandbox, the way it's meant to be. The way it's meant. Like they just turn the entire battlefield into just fire. Weird West, as you might have noticed, it's like a cowboy Wild West kind of thing, but weird because there's supernatural elements going on to it. You've got like mutations and magic and shit like that. Weird West has 5 different characters that all have their own storyline. They all have their own abilities and stuff like that. And the stories do intersect at some point, but they are kind of their own thing. It's not a case where you'll all meet up and then you're the party from then on. It's you are by yourself, and you will occasionally bump into the other protagonists, more or less. And it looks kind of interesting to me, at least. I had thought it was going to be like a kind of standard. I had thought it was going to be like Wasteland? Westlands? Something like that. There's another isometric Wild West looking game that I'm not that big a fan of. And it did look a bit like that, but seeing a bit more of it now, that it's actually kind of like it's kind of like the old Fallouts, like Fallout 1 and 2. And yes, that says January 11th, but again, it was delayed. It's actually coming out now in March the 21st. Then we have Forspoken, or as some hilarious person on Twitter rearranged the words and cut out a few of them, and it said foreskin instead. And I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, this is an isekai kind of thing from Square Enix. Basically, it is modern day person gets transported to weird and fantastical world, and wouldn't you know it, turns out they're the chosen one kind of thing. It's that kind of story. What's interesting here is the combat and traversal mechanics of the game. A story we don't like. You've heard it many times before. So I don't think we have to go too much into it. They're the only person who can save this land they've just shown up in. We get to combat. Okay, I'm gonna skip back a little or skip forward a little. Anyway, we've got like traversal stuff, so there's very high speed, a bit of parkour. What it actually reminds me a lot of is Infamous. The electricity guy from the PS3, and then the smoke guy from PS4, I guess. There's a lot of that kind of feeling to it. Particularly with the traversal and the kind of speed that they can move at, this character can move around in, and definitely the over the shoulder point your hand at people and they explode kind of thing. It has distinct Infamous stuff going on, and it does have its own thing here. There's clearly like swapping out different elements. The map is much bigger, the battlefields are much bigger, and you've got enormous creatures to deal with that will annihilate you. Apparently, I don't know why they thought that was a good place to end it, but there you go. Anyway, that's Foreskin, or Forspoken if you prefer. 24th of May, that'll be PlayStation and PC. We have the Saints Row reboot, remake, whatever way you want to look at it. I was pretty down on it, again, from Volition, who have pretty much just made Saints Row, so that's kind of what they're known for. The original Saints Row was a GTA clone, and not a particularly good one, but when they moved into Saints Row 3 and 4, they kind of just changed it and just leaned heavily into just stupidity and just tons of fun and anarchy and that kind of thing. Just went pretty crazy with their storylines. Like, by the end of it, you were president of Earth, sailing through like the galaxy on a spaceship and stuff like that. Like, they really went nuts by the end of it. And there was a question that this reboot would lose a lot of the fun of that because it would look like it was going for a bit more of a grounded thing. Now, it has obviously pulled way back on the story. You know, it's much more grounded. It's more of a gang war, like a turf war kind of thing, as opposed to, you know, Space President, which was kind of hoping they would like keep going. Like how stupider can you make the story? But it does look like it's still going to be a bit a fun kind of shenanigans and shit going on in Saints Row. It's just a bit sad that they didn't just keep building on the ridiculous story that they had going. They've pulled it way back, but they're still going with the, you know, stupid shit. And maybe I wonder if they still have a dedicated nutshot button, which was always hilarious as a back of the box kind of thing they could have put down. And I never swapped over to desktop audio. Well, so you didn't hear any of that. I'll remember to do it this time. So Saints Row will be out on 23rd of August. So big jump from May to August. Again, the summer is always a dead zone for new games. Nothing ever comes out in the summer, despite like just bring something out. You'd own the summer if anybody brought out a big game. So last one, Starfield. Again, we know very little about Starfield. There hasn't been any gameplay. There's been some leaks and shit that have been so low quality that you'd question whether they actually were. But this is Skyrim in space. So it's by Bethesda, so it will be broken as fuck when it comes out. So you might want to wait like 6 months for it to actually stabilize, or maybe it'll never stabilize. You don't know. They've been very slapdash. If Fallout 76 is anything to go by. But anyway, Starfield is a realistic approach to human space travel. So they're trying to take a bit more of a grounded idea with like your spaceships, your equipment and stuff like that. Chances are you're not going to see space magic and stuff like that. So it'll be a bit more grounded that way. This entire trailer is just a tone setter. It's not sure if it's even in engine or anything like that. I kind of doubt it. But the idea is, and Bethesda have said it themselves, that you can pretty much just say it's Skyrim in space. It's pretty much the same idea. You will have like various factions that will be warring against themselves in the same way Skyrim had like the Stormcloaks and the Empire, that kind of thing. You'll have like the dwarves from Elder Scrolls, same idea, like ancient civilizations and places to look out for. You are, I believe, playing specifically an explorer, so you're going to look for like places people haven't been and that kind of thing. And they're using the same release date that they used for Skyrim, which was 11/11/11. Now it's 11/11/22. I guess because they couldn't do 22/22/22 because there's only so many months in the year. Anyway, that will be, again, 11th of November, 2022, as I just said. And that is the end of our games that have actual dates. So from this point, we'll instead be looking at games that have that are coming out next year, but don't have a specific date in mind, and probably won't. Like, I imagine a lot of these will miss their deadline or their release date and will probably slip into next year, 2023, but whatever. We'll have a look at them anyway. So first up, these are all in alphabetical order. I think this is the best way to look at it. So starting at A, Arc Raiders. This is by Embark, I think. Yes, Embark Studio. So Embark are formerly developers for DICE. I need to mute it. I just want to put it down low. Anyway, formerly for DICE. DICE would have been responsible for like Battlefield and pretty much just Battlefield at this point, which I imagine is why a lot of these developers jumped ship and decided, you know what? We want to make something else that isn't just military shooter every single year. And I know we're in A, but when we get to B, there won't be a Battlefield because I don't care about Battlefield, but I imagine there will be another one this year, or probably another shoot the guy game. Anyway, Arc Raiders was shown off at the Game Awards last month, so we have talked a little bit about this already, but if you have played a game called Earth Defense Force, Earth Defense Force is a kind of like a big map. You're usually spawned in a city and there is some kind of alien invasion happening. Either it's bugs or aliens or... I realized they could potentially be the same thing. It's usually just various kinds of giant insects that drop down from the sky and try to take over the city, and you're tasked with taking them out with various levels of ordinances. It is extremely low budget, and it kind of leans into the fact that it's low budget and just kind of has a lot of fun. Arc Raiders feels to me like what if EDF had a budget, basically. So they're taking a bit of their DICE know-how and their big multiplayer maps and just applying it to giant robots falling out of the sky and you having to work as a team to take them down. So I believe it is entirely PvE, although I imagine they'll add a PvP at some point. But I think the idea for now is to go with PvE, player versus environment, where you'll work together to take down these giant robot things. And I just kind of like the idea of it, I suppose. I'm not super into big multiplayer games, but I don't know. This seems interesting. And I'm curious if they will cross over with Konami and drop a Metal Gear on top of you at some point, because that would be good. And that was probably copyrighted music. Well. So this is Baldur's Gate 3. So Baldur's Gate 3 has been in early access for about a year, maybe two. So I'm not playing the audio for this video because it is a 4-hour live stream, and it's 2 hour. Why did I think it was 4? Maybe they had a different one. This is them just showing off the latest patch where they added some new character classes and stuff. So Baldur's Gate 3 is Dungeons & Dragons game. It's being done by Larian Studios. Larian are responsible for the Divinity RPG series, which is very, very good. It's very good tactical role-playing game, which blends in nicely with Dungeons & Dragons. It might as well have been a Dungeons & Dragons game in the way it went. But this is fully licensed from Wizards of the Coast. You know, it has the big budget and so on. So hopefully we'll be seeing some really good stuff coming out of their early access things. It's looking pretty good. They have, I think, all of the character classes, all of the D&D classes are available now, and there is just a ton of quests and adaptability in the same way you would expect from a D&D campaign. Adding all kind of different spells. Now they don't have all of the latest updated stuff. You know, they don't have the latest source books that came out for D&D this year. You know, development time is long, and if they were trying, they'd never catch up. Basically, D&D would have to stop releasing books for 5 years or something to catch up. But they have a lot. And it will be good to play another D&D game that isn't a MOBA or a really bad hack and slash game, a proper tactical role-playing game. This is kind of what I'm looking for. So that's Baldur's Gate 3. We have Bayonetta 3, which was kind of surprise, shown off during a Nintendo Treehouse thing. One of their Nintendo Directs. Maybe it was the E3 one. I don't remember. Anyway, Bayonetta's from Platinum, who we've already seen, who are also making Babylon's Fall. Platinum have a good few teams, but this would be... Bayonetta 3 would be their core team working on it, who've worked on all the Bayonettas, and would have previously worked on Astral Chain, which was not particularly well received, but I really liked it. And the way this trailer was set up is that it seemed like it was going to be a sequel to Astral Chain. Because it has a bit of the same art style, and this particular mascot is from Astral Chain, which is why people were thinking, is this Astral Chain too? But no, it then became pretty obvious that it was going to be Bayonetta 3. And obviously the reveal of Bayonetta left no room for doubt. So Bayonetta is a spectacle brawler in the sense that the game is more about style than it is necessarily about... it's all about combat, but it's mostly about being stylish with your combat. Story-wise, it seems like this may not be the Bayonetta from 1 and 2. So if you're not familiar with the Bayonetta story, there's a bit of time traveling kind of stuff. So this might actually be Bayonetta from the past who's now aged up to adult Bayonetta. So it's questionable. But anyway, the Bayonetta series has some excellent action set pieces, and this seems to be following in much the same vein, but then also will have giant kaiju battles. So you'll have like control of Monavalo, I think is that one, and fighting the bigger monsters and potentially, I guess, fighting the smaller monsters as Bayonetta, and then using the demon at the same time to fight bigger ones. So it's a bit nuts. They're obviously taking advantage of the fact that there's been 2 generations, I think, since Bayonetta 2. And I always find this kind of interesting because this spider character, this spider scorpion thing, I'm almost certain, is Phantom from Devil May Cry, which is a different series entirely, a different studio and whatever. Or it could just be another spider scorpion. Could just be that. But I don't know. I wonder if they are just alluding to the idea that Bayonetta and Dante may be in the same universe. I don't know. That's more just fanboying over that kind of stuff. Okay. Right. Legend of Zelda. So Breath of the Wild 2 is allegedly getting its sequel this year, but we have seen this trailer and that's it. We know nothing else about it, and I also haven't finished the original Breath of the Wild, so I should probably get around to doing that at some point. So what I do think is interesting here is that this character, you're kind of meant to think it's Link, and I would think it probably is meant to be Link. But one thing that I find interesting is that they never show this character's face. And also his right arm's all fucked up. His clothing as well is, not typical of what Link would wear, even though it might be green. So I think that what they're doing here is they are swapping Link in for a different character who they don't want to reveal yet. And I think it's Ganon. I think you play as Ganon for a bit of this game. But you'll see that this character, they never show their face. And then Link is also in this trailer. The regular Breath of the Wild's blue shirt Link is already in the trailer too. So why to have different costumes and stuff? Like, I know you have different costumes in Breath of the Wild, but it seems strange that they would purposely use 2 different ones. So yeah, I'm curious. And you also have a bit of the music here. If you listen to it, it is being played in reverse. So there might be some time travel stuff happening in Breath of the Wild too. Or not, and I'm just reading heavily into this and it means nothing about it. But there's, like, they have said that the reason they haven't given or they haven't released the name for the sequel is because it actually spoils something about the game, which suggests it spoils who you're playing as. So I think it is, but I guess we'll find out. Okay, so this next one I have lined in red because this trailer is pretty fucked up. So just let you know, lots of gore, lots of body horror. If you don't want to see that, maybe minimize the window or something. This is the Callisto Protocol by Strike Distance. Or is it Strike Distance or Striking Distance? It's Striking Distance. Okay, and they are formerly of Visceral Games. Visceral Games were an EA studio who made the Dead Space series. Dead Space 1, 2, 3, Dead Space Extraction. Well, the Wii game. I don't know. It was bad. Don't have to worry about it. And Visceral was shuttered, and Dead Space went into cold sleep. We haven't heard too much about it, although we're only at C here. Wait till we get to D. But the former devs of Visceral decide, Dead Space is good, and Dead Space 3 wasn't, but that's because EA interfered. And we decided, you know what, let's make this without EA interfering. So they're going, hey, let's make Dead Space again. But we don't own the Dead Space IP, so I guess we'll just have to make a Dead Space alike. That's what they're going for here. So pretty horrible monsters. Guy with multiple mouths or a tongue teeth. Delicious. And this is the horrible part I was talking about. This is a really bad hentai. Ow, why? Anyway. And then you have Guy here who is watching it on a monitor and doesn't care too much. So, question about like story and what the Callisto Protocol is and whatever. Anyway, clearly somebody knows what's going on in whatever Callisto is. Callisto is a moon of Jupiter, I believe. So, potentially that's where it's set. Coming 2022. We don't know when. Maybe Halloween. So to stick with a kind of horror game, I suppose, but to go completely the other direction for Halloween and to go with the more campy side of Halloween, I guess. This is from Massive Monster, and I think this is their debut title. It's also being published by Devolver Digital, so you probably have a pretty good idea of what kind of tone the game has. Devolver has a kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like adult games, but they don't take themselves too seriously sort of thing. And this is kind of what Cult of the Lamb will be. Which is what this game is. You are playing this lamb who has been possessed by some kind of demonic entity, and you build a cult with your fun and cute woodland creatures who themselves become possessed and so on. So it is a dungeon crawler, isometric kind of thing. It's difficult to tell if it's a twin stick or something like that. But you'll see actual gameplay here. The art style is excellent. I really, really like it. It's got a bit of bullet hell. There's a bit of Enter the Gungeon going on here. But it does seem to be mostly melee focused. And then the second aspect of it is that you have base building, more or less. Like building up your cult, getting new followers, acquiring power from followers, and keeping them safe from false prophets. And then also sacrificing the cute woodland creatures for more power. So yeah, there's that aspect to it. So yeah, it's cute, but also it's still pretty evil and it's still pretty gross in some places. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And Cult of the Lamb is for now just on PC, but I could see this coming to like Switch, Xbox, PlayStation probably soon enough after release. That's Cult of the Lamb. And then we have again sticking with horror title, I guess. So as this guy says, you have been trapped in golf purgatory. So this is a golf light, as the developer calls it. So think of it as a roguelite, but golf. And I can't talk while he's talking. Sorry, it's messing me up. Basically, you have 18 holes to get through. So a golf game, but you only have a limited number of golf balls to get through the game, and you will. I just realized I turned him off for you, but not for me. I was still trying to talk over him. Anyway, you need to work your way through golf purgatory, 18 different holes, trying to basically puzzle your way through the different traps, spikes, pits, that kind of thing. And it has a really nice art style and presentation. This is by Sabotage. And Sabotage previously made The Messenger, which was also a great... Nope, that's not them. That's a different game. That's a different game I'm thinking of. Who is this by? Curse to Golf. Switch PC and... Oh, it's by Chuhai Labs. Yeah, I'm thinking of a different game that's coming up later. Chuhai Labs, I believe this is their debut title. Anyway, it'll be interesting. It's an interesting take on the roguelike. So the roguelike idea is, you try to get as far as you can, but when you die, you go all the way back to the start. So I guess in the case for this is if you run out of golf balls, you go back to the start. But you can collect more, I believe, as the game goes on. So I think you start off with not enough to get to the end of the game. but as you play through it, you'll get more, and eventually reach the end, presumably. Now, remember when I said we hadn't heard anything about Dead Space? Well, then it was kind of shock out of nowhere. And again, this is from a stream, so it's mostly just people talking over it. So there wasn't a whole lot to show off about Dead Space. There was a kind of teaser tone setter trailer where they replayed the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star music song from Dead Space, which is an extremely creepy version, pretty much. But this is them just showing off some of the areas from the original Dead Space and how they have remade them for the remake. And it's still work in progress. You've got random floating blue cubes and so on, but they're showing off here a bit of the zero gravity gameplay that was in, and it's changed a little bit now in that you can actually freely move through corridors now in zero gravity, which was not an option in the original game. So getting through doors and stuff like that, they were kind of limited in what they could do originally. So zero gravity was usually kept to really big open areas. And that's kind of the only place you could do it, I guess, for memory constraint or something like that. But now they are moving you through like tight corridors and stuff like that. Debatable if that's an improvement. I kind of feel like it will just be frustrating to move around, but additionally to that, the game just looks like Dead Space looks really good anyway. Like if you boot up Dead Space now, you still go, wow, that game still looks amazing. They did an incredible job with the graphical fidelity for the original Dead Space, and like it looks like they're trying to push it even further. So here's like lighting, fog effects and stuff like that, and I believe they go through there's like a shooting gallery section. So this is like one of the this is one of the earliest corridors in the original Dead Space, where you had the kind of scary moment where there was a corpse headbutting the wall, and for whatever reason it just didn't fall down. It just kept headbutting the wall until you bumped into it and then it fell over. Anyway, it was wonder of a question. Is that a monster or is it? No, it turns out it's a corpse. What they show off here is their like zippering technology, which is a horrible way to think about it. But basically, all of the enemies now have like multiple layers to them, so that when you attack it, you'll basically reveal the next layer and the next layer, and eventually they'll lose their limb, because a big component of Dead Space game combat was to remove the limbs of enemies, because that was the only way to kill them. The parasite lived in the limbs rather than in the main core or something like that. I forget what I forget whatever bullshit they made up for it to make sense, but basically you had to sever the limbs. So they're just making it, one, a little bit more difficult in that you'll have to cut through their flesh and then cut through their bone as well. The only way to make it work. Anyway, that's the Dead Space remake, allegedly coming out this year, but again, we haven't seen much, so kind of doubt it, to be honest. Kind of doubt it. Hey Daredactyl, how's it going? I still can't see my chat on this tablet, which is really frustrating, because that's the whole reason I have it set up. Anyway, or maybe it's because I have it open in OBS and it's pushing it there. Anyway, not important. Right, next. Again, this one is also outlined in red because it is gross. Basically, it doesn't seem like it's gross until you get to the end. So Dark Pictures is by Supermassive. Supermassive make the Dark Picture anthology, obviously, but they've also the people behind Until Dawn, which is also a really good choose your own adventure horror game that I did a let's play of somewhere on the channel. You can go look it up. Anyway, cheap plug for myself. So The Devil in Me is the fourth entry in the Dark Pictures anthology and will be rounding out season 1. The Dark Pictures have been a little hit and miss. Their latest one, House of Ashes, is really good. It's about a group of US soldiers who are stationed in whatever the latest US war in the Middle East was. And they're looking for like areas of weapons for mass destruction. And it turns out they find an underground horror show. The Devil in Me is going to be a kind of serial killer in a hotel kind of thing. And one of the residents is the titular devil, I guess. Should be interesting. So as I was saying, the original, Man of Medan was kind of okay. That was the first Dark Pictures. Little Hope was crap. Honestly, it was really boring. I didn't like it at all. House of Ashes was good. I really liked House of Ashes. So hoping this will be a bit more House of Ashes, because games, they've been trying different things that they're going on, and I'm kind of hoping they've hit their stride now with House of Ashes, and maybe the devil in me will see a good season 1 finale. As for what they do with season 2, who knows? Who knows? Okay, Dolmen. Dolmen is... So there's been a lot of games who are basically, what if Dark Souls, but thing. And Dolmen is, what if Dark Souls, but space. Basically. So it's like sci-fi Dark Souls, if you like. You are stationed to this moon base where all these alien creatures have taken over this moon base, and you are now tasked with figuring out what happened while also engaging in, bullshit melee shenanigans like Dark Souls. I'm not entirely sure what to think of the game. I kind of have it out just because I've grown to like the Dark Souls style of brawler game, and I like brawler games in general, but the Dark Souls style is interesting, and it's a different type. You've got like spectacle brawlers like Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, that kind of thing. And you've got these kinds which are a bit more methodical. They're a bit wait for your opening. You're a bit more of a fragile character, and like lots of different other ones. What I'm a bit mixed on is the gun gameplay. Is that the character looks like they're just skating around. So the animations in general feel a bit weird. They feel like they're too fast in some places and too slow in some places, but other gameplay of it seems better. So I'm thinking that that's just an early trailer, and it has improved in the meantime. Ghostwire Tokyo. So sorry, that's loud. I really should adjust the audio before I start playing. Ghostwire Tokyo is by Tango Gameworks. Tango Gameworks are responsible for The Evil Within, and their lead developer or lead creative would have also been responsible for some of the Resident Evils. So this is a first-person kind of horror, kind of shooter type thing, leaning very heavily into Japanese horror. And the game is like, that's Shibuya right there, which is where it's taking place. And we've got a lot of Slendermans just hanging out. So I say it's a kind of shooter. It's really leaning into like the Japanese ninpo or onmyo kind of magic stuff. You've got this guy who's kind of dressed like an oni. He has an oni mask. There's a lot of like Japanese folklore here, which I'm not super familiar with. So I am like interested in seeing more of it and like learning about anew, like the fears of another society or whatever. What I'm a little worried about is the actual lead, the lead creative for this game, Ikumi Nikamura Nishimura. I forget her family name. Left the company before the game came out, and there was some question that their parent studio had been kind of unnecessarily muscling in and changing stuff about the game, and she wasn't happy about that and has now left to form her own studio. So yeah, not entirely sure how well this will turn out. Hopefully it'll turn out okay, but I guess we'll see. Right, God of War Ragnarok. So the follow-up to the God of War sort of reboot, which we'll see Kratos and Atreus again, and this time dealing with Ragnarok, which is the death of all the gods of Norse mythology, more or less, which is pretty much in Kratos' wheelhouse, I guess. So anyway, the God of War reboot was excellent, like very well done. It has really, really satisfying combat and like really good presentation. Like it's an excellent game, and the original reboot God of War is actually out on PC this week as well. If you didn't own a PlayStation, you can now get it on PC if you wanted to. God of War Ragnarok will follow. We'll see Kratos trying to locate Tyr, the god of war of Norse mythology, and that's their idea, that to try and get some help in the coming war, because spoilers for the original God of War. I'll give you a couple of seconds. You kill Baldur at the end of the original God of War, and Thor, Baldur's brother, he's not happy. He's not happy about that. He's in the trailer somewhere, and yeah, you need help basically to deal with him. So there's a bit of combat. The combat is very satisfying. There was a lot, like 2 different weapons you could choose between. You also had your shield. The axe, there's Thor now. The axe had a recall mechanic, so you could throw it and then it would come back to you and also attack enemies on the way back. And if you didn't have the axe in your hand, then you changed to unarmed combat, so you'd be able to punch enemies and stuff like that. So there was a great change of like lead in with your axe, then fling it at a ranged enemy, block somebody with your shield, beat them up, throw them at another enemy, recall your axe, and like there's fantastic like dynamism to the God of War combat. I just want more of it. Basically, that's all I'm looking for. Anyway, that's God of War, PlayStation exclusive, but potentially it'll end up on PC like the original reboot. Okay, Little Devil Inside. So I was looking at Little Devil Inside when it was announced for Kickstarter, and I did back it at the time, but the Kickstarter was not successful. But it looks like they ended up getting funding from Sony at some point, amongst others, I imagine. Probably a few other people. And maybe they cancelled the Kickstarter. Maybe that's what it was, because they ended up getting funding from a bigger publishing partner. But Little Devil Inside has a really interesting art style, and basically you are playing this character. I don't believe they've been named yet. And you are kind of like Victorian steampunky time sort of thing, where you are kind of sent off on these kind of wild expeditions to either hunt down monsters or recover artifacts or help people complete quests and that kind of thing. So it's got a bit of like the adventuring spirit of the Victorian times to it. It's got that kind of idea. Big open maps, like kind of varied gameplay. And one like small thing that I've seen, because they did do like a dev thing ages ago. They haven't done one since. Where they had you out in the desert and you were like taking your camel along with it and like changing out your inventory and stuff like that. But it just looked really good, like massive map for you to roam around in the desert. But it's like the sand was like adjusting to you, like the camel's hoof prints were disappearing because the wind was blowing the sand over them and that kind of thing. It was really impressive, and it doesn't sound like it's very impressive, but it is really impressive. And there's a very, very small amount of combat in this trailer. There was another trailer shown off recently that has a bit more to it. And the combat is very fluid looking too. So yeah, really, really interested to see how this turns out. That's Little Devil Inside. Then we have Marvel's Midnight Suns, or just Midnight Suns as I'm going to call it from now on. So Midnight Suns is a strategy RPG, or a tactical RPG, if you like. So it's by Firaxis, and Firaxis are responsible for XCOM, as it says there. So they're the guys who make XCOM. So it's not quite what we were kind of expecting that it would be. What if XCOM was Marvel? Basically, it's not quite that, unfortunately. I would actually have really, really wanted that kind of game. But what we're getting is possibly, well, I doubt it'll be as good, to be perfectly honest, but it could still be interesting. So there is a tactical thing to it, but it's not like you're going to be running around looking for cover and trying to like pincer maneuver people and going for Overwatch and whatever like that. So the Midnight Suns storyline is kind of delving into Marvel's magic and underworld and hell, demonic kind of stuff. Probably stuff that the films probably won't go into. So this game is like not part of the MCU. So it is free to kind of delve into these stranger stories, I guess, that I doubt the films will actually go into. Although, I don't know, maybe the Doctor Strange sequel will go into something like that. So the gameplay wise, you will be taking on, or taking out rather, a team of 3, maybe 4 heroes. And you are dealt cards. And the cards are reflective of your different party members' abilities and stuff. So you won't necessarily have all of their abilities all at your disposal at one time. You're essentially dealt them out randomly, and you have to more or less adapt on the fly with the abilities you have to see if you can deal with the enemies. Can we get to the actual combat bit? No? Combat. Okay. So you do have this kind of stuff where you can interact with the environment. So knocking enemies into explosives will like blow them up, and it'll take out other enemies at the same time. I kind of wonder how Captain America reconciles explosions and setting enemies on fire. That kind of thing. He seems like he's a bit too nice for that sort of thing, but whatever. Maybe not. Maybe I'm misremembering him. But there are some characters that you don't see too often. Magic from Runaways will be in it. Wolverine, I mean, yes, you see Wolverine all over the place, but you know, the mutants are completely absent from the MCU, so actually seeing them at all. And Blade, they are making a new Blade film, so I guess you will see him in the MCU at some point, but you don't see them too much. And this character that you've been seeing that you might not recognize is the player character. They are a custom character. You make them whoever you want. The game is claiming it's the first time you've been able to make a custom Marvel character, but it's not. You've been able to do it in a couple of different Marvel games now, so I don't know why they highlighted it that way. Maybe they just want you to forget. So you do have the actual going out and fighting, and then you'll also have the, you know, back at the base, chat to everybody stuff as well. So I guess we'll see how that turns out. It is by Firaxis, so I am like confident it'll at least be fun, but I do feel like a XCOM but Marvel characters would have been more fun. But anyway, this is Neon White. So Neon White is by what is his name? What is his name? Here somewhere. Ben Esposito. I kept thinking it was John Esposito, and I knew that was wrong. I need to look it up. So Ben Esposito made Donut County, as he says in this trailer as well, and he's making Neon White. What was that he's saying? Again, I can't talk while somebody else is talking. It messes with my head. But anyway, so this is a first-person parkour shooter type thing, but you are basically going for trying to complete levels as fast as you possibly can. And the way the gameplay works out is there's a bit visual novel stuff to it, but the actual levels themselves, you have cards. And one side of the card is an actual combat ability. So like you have a sword here, sometimes you have a gun, a crossbow, and so on. You use them to shoot enemies, but if you discard the card, you will instead get some kind of parkour ability. So you'll get a double jump. In this case, some of them, you'll just be launched forward really far. One or two of them, I think, are teleports and stuff like that. So the question is, do you hold on to the card to defeat the enemies, or do you use the parkour to get away from them and, you know, get through the level as fast as you can? So I think he does one level here. So he's doing one level here, and he's like playing it fairly conservative. He's using most of the weapons. So he's using the cards as weapons for most of the part, and then when there's less, or when he needs to, he's using the parkour, and then like, okay score, but you can do better. And then like the second run, which he does any second now. Any second, okay. And this time he's like, no, fuck it. I'm just going. I'm just going to go. And he's like burning through his cards, you know, taking shortcuts and completes in like 8 seconds, you know. There's like a lot of room for improvement. So it's that kind of thing if you're like really into the arcadey kind of stuff and you really want to be like getting high scores or fast times and that kind of thing. So it's an interesting game mechanic. So that's kind of why I was interested in looking at it. And Donut County was hilarious. So if there's more of that level of comedy as well, then I'll be happy to check that out. So now we have A Plague Tale Requiem, which is a sequel to A Plague Tale Innocence. Again, A Plague Tale Innocence. I did a Let's Play of it. It's out on the channel somewhere. It was actually fairly recent. It was one of my more recent Let's Play. Check it out. I really like A Plague Tale, but it definitely has problems. There's not gameplay outside of stealth. There wasn't a whole lot of it. It was mostly just walk and talk sort of stuff. Mostly I just really liked the story and the setting. And there was a lot of like the rat flocking AI and stuff like that was really interesting. I just liked how they worked and how it moved, and I studied it a bit when I was in university, so I guess I had that going for me as well. But it appears there'll be a little bit more to it. Amicia still has her sling, but as you can see on her back, she also has a crossbow. So I guess there'll be a bit more varied combat this time out. But Hugo is still with her, and the rats are still around, which they really shouldn't be because of how the first game ended. They're back for some reason. There are some returning characters. So yeah, it'd be like, I didn't think we'd actually get a sequel, but I guess it did well enough for them to do it. This is from Asobo Studios, who have made A Plague Tale. I think that was their first game, the very first one, Plague Tale Innocence, and then they've also worked on Flight Simulator for Microsoft, which is that's kind of a weird combination of games to have in your portfolio, but okay, but we'll go with that. Okay, we have Prince of Persia: Sand of Time remake, which has been... Oops, that's the wrong button. I just skipped all the way back. Anyway, Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake. Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time is one of the best action-adventure games ever. It's really, really good. So having like a remake of it, like with like updated graphics and so on, HD, etc. Like there is a Prince of Persia: Sands of Time HD version, but it is shit. It's really poorly made. There's got all sorts of graphical problems. It's got some sort of audio problems. There's a persistent click that just keeps going for the whole game. And like reloading your save does nothing. Just turning off the game, turning back on, doesn't get rid of it. It's just there, constant clicking. It's so frustrating to play it. So if you want to play Sands of Time, try to find the original rather than the HD version, because it's not great, but could potentially have this remake to go with. Now, this trailer received quite a bit of condemnation because you can see graphically it doesn't look great. You know, it looks okay, but not something you would expect from like a full remake of the game. So it's a bit disappointing, but at the same time, it has actually been delayed multiple times. So there's a question that perhaps they have taken that to heart and they like have done a big overall. Like this was the first trailer, and we haven't. When I say first trailer, this is the only trailer. We haven't seen anything since. So I'm guessing there's been a pretty heavy change to the development. Also, massive spoilers for the Prince of Persia game in this trailer. But anyway, game's old enough, I suppose. If you wanted to know the story, you could have at this point. So yeah, available January 21st last year. That did not happen. It was delayed and has been delayed quite a few times now at this point. So hopefully it'll come out at some point. Maybe this year. It is allegedly coming out this year, but I kind of feel like it won't. I'd say it'll slip again. And to be honest, it probably won't come out ever. And then we have the added issue that it's by Ubisoft, and I don't want to give them any money. So, yeah. Anyway. Then we have Redfall. So Redfall was shown off at the Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase. This was when Bethesda had just been bought by Microsoft or Xbox, whatever way you want to put it, and they were showing off like a bunch of games and stuff. This was where Starfield was shown off, I believe, and a couple of other things, but then this was also shown off. So this is by Arcane, again, Arcane Austin, as opposed to Arcane Leon. Arcane Leon are the guys behind Deathloop and Dishonored. Arcane Austin are Prey and this Redfall. So there have been a few games coming out and have come out that are pretty much Left 4 Dead, but something, right? We have Aliens Fireteam, which was Left 4 Dead, but make it Aliens. And Back 4 Blood, which was Left 4 Dead, but just change the name and just leave it as Left 4 Dead, pretty much. And now we have Left 4 Dead, but vampires. And After the Fall is Left 4 Dead, but VR. But anyway, so Redfall this is an entire CG trailer. It shows nothing about the gameplay, but I think we can reasonably expect that it will be a first-person shooter. First-person team shooter type deal, Left 4 Dead type idea. But vampires. And humans as well, because they're fighting humans here, but they do eventually have to deal with vampires, which I imagine will be the boss creature type thing, the named enemies, as opposed to the grunts or whatever. Now, I assume they're vampires. They have not actually come out and specifically said they are vampires. I think they're called mutants or mutations or some kind of thing. They haven't come right out and said, no, straight up vampire. Anyway, this is a CG trailer. You can go look it up yourself. It's a pretty interesting trailer, but it means nothing until we actually see gameplay. So that's that. I pressed all the wrong buttons. Anyway. This is Replaced. Replaced was announced. I didn't mean to mute you. Just lower your audio a bit. Okay. Replaced is a side-scroller, pixelized thing. And I'm doing it a massive disservice because it is gorgeous. Has a gorgeous art style. And kind of the way they do it is they're using realistic lighting, and most of these objects would be 3D, but they've had a pixel texture or pixelized filter applied to them, which is kind of how they're getting away with this visual art style. So this is by Sad Cat. I think this is also their first game. They are from Belarus. This music, if you're interested, is original to the game. It's called Void. You can find it on their website and allegedly on Spotify, but I can't find it on Spotify, but whatever. Apparently it's there somewhere, I guess. Maybe I'm just not putting the search terms in right. So it's kind of cyberpunk side-scrolly thing, which I love me some side-scrolling thing. But the thing that really stood out to me is, one, this music is really, really good. The lighting style, the art style is really, really good. But the combat is very gun-fu, Equilibrium kind of thing going on. Got huge Blade Runner stuff. What they do with the camera, to be honest, is probably the thing that's really interesting to me. Is that they have this camera moving around as you fight, as you make impacts. It kind of rotates. Not rotates. Yeah, rotates. Lists, whatever. Go back a bit. Go forward a bit. Like this one, I think this one scene is what sealed it for me. It's there, flip, shoot the guy. It's like, holy shit, I need to play that game. That's incredible. So yeah, that's Replaced. Allegedly it's coming out this year. It'll be Xbox and PC. Sea of Stars is the game I was thinking of when I thought Sabotage and The Messenger. This is the guys who are behind The Messenger. So The Messenger was a throwback to the old Shinobi games and Strider games. So that's what they were from. Sea of Stars is a throwback to Chrono Trigger, basically. And they even got the composer of Chrono Trigger to come in and do music for the game. That's how much this is a throwback to Chrono Trigger. So there's a lot of stuff here that wouldn't have been in the original, like big wide open map, like interesting traversal mechanics, getting completely yeeted by a giant. It's not quite shown off, I think, in this trailer, but combat takes place entirely on the map. Like, it's not like it loads in a special area for you to fight. It's like it takes place right there on the map. Your positioning is important, as it is in Chrono Trigger. Being able to attack enemies and team up with other characters and so on. Like, Chrono Trigger is one of the best JRPGs ever, and like, if they can do what they did for The Messenger and they can do it for Sea of Stars here, like this will be an excellent game. So really looking forward to that, and it is also allegedly out this year at some point. Okay, nearly there. 41 games. It take a while to get through. So Hollow Knight, Silksong. So this is a sequel to Hollow Knight, where you will, rather than playing the character from the first game, because story reasons, play the game, find out. You are instead playing as Hornet, who was a boss in the second game. Oh, sorry, was a boss in the first game, but is now a playable character in the second game. And she is considerably more mobile than the original character. She has a lot of different traversal options, and she's a much faster character. So she's got a lot of different movement tech to her. She also has all of the abilities you would have seen when you fought her in the boss fight. She has all of those available to her and will gain new ones. And that's just a penis monster. Where is it? Where's the running penis? Did I skip ahead instead of back? No, there it is. Look at that. Anyway, the original Hollow Knight, excellent search action Metroidvania type thing. Really, really good game, which I also have not finished. I really do need to finish that. So more of that. Why wouldn't you want more of that? Excellent. This is again by Team Cherry, people who made the original Hollow Knight, and which I believe was their first game. So more of this. They have a type and they do it really, really well. So really looking forward to that. That will probably be Switch. Do I have it written down? It's under Silksong rather than Hollow Knight's Silksong. Switch and PC probably to start, and then maybe eventually reaching Xbox and PlayStation. Then we have Somerville. So Somerville gives me big inside Limbo vibes. So it's a side-scrolling, really moody game, I suppose. So it seems to be set during an alien invasion of some kind, and you are I believe, like a dad trying to get his family to safety kind of thing, but shenanigans as they typically do. So this trailer is mostly a tone setter. We're not sure how much of this is gameplay, how much of this is scripted sequence. That's almost certainly, to be honest, a lot of what's shown in the trailer seems like it's probably a scripted sequence and not actually gameplay. You know, like, this is just you running through the streets. You know, if you had stopped, would you have been impaled by that thing? Or, you know, does it shoot at the same spot? Does it always shoot at the car every time, no matter what? It just, whatever vibe it's given off, I'm here for it. So, again, don't know a huge amount about Somerville, but it'll be Xbox PC and maybe this year, maybe, if we're lucky. We've got Stray. Stray is the cat game. You may have seen it online. Sorry, guy talking. I can't. It just, I don't know. It screws with my head. I can't really do it. But anyway, you play a cat who has found itself lost in this underground city somehow. This is from a French team, Blue 12 or Bleu 12 or Bleu Bleu. I don't know. Anyway, you play a cat who's injured at the beginning and manages to find somebody friendly enough to patch it up, and then the idea is cat needs to find its way back to its people, more or less. So I'm going to skip past injured cat because that's, you know, sad. Move on to it. But it is effectively like an action platformer kind of thing, where you're mostly just solving puzzles as a cat, and just being a shithead cat, knocking things over and investigating people's stuff and pushing really expensive equipment onto the floor and laughing about it. I don't know. Do it. See? Cat things. Anyway, I don't know. It just looks... You play a cat. Why wouldn't you want to play that? I don't know. We already have Okami where you played a dog. So now we have Stray where you play a cat in Robot Land. I probably didn't mention that. There's robots everywhere. There are no human beings for whatever reason in this world. And now you play a cat with a backpack. Also excellent. So this little drone guy is your companion and I guess does the talking for you, which is probably a good thing, but cats can't talk. So, you know, somebody needs to talk. Anyway, that trailer goes through a lot of what you kind of learn to expect from the game. So if you want to check it out, it's just Stray. Just look for it on YouTube. It's pretty great. And then we have Suicide Squad. Sure, why not? Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Sorry, I'll change back. So this trailer was shown off during the game trailers, or the Game Awards, as they would prefer to be known as, and shows a bit of the gameplay from the 4 characters. So it's Captain Boomerang, who's getting his shit wrecked there, Deadshot, Harley Quinn, and King Shark, or Killer Shark? King Shark? Fuck. King Shark. Killer Croc, King Shark. That's who it is. Anyway, and it's kind of just showing off their different gameplay styles. So King Shark is your kind of big, heavy brawler type guy. He gets into the middle of the fight and just, wrecks stuff. Probably has the most health, maybe super armor, stuff like that. Deadshot is your more ranged type of guy. Stays far away from enemy types, has a jetpack, that kind of thing. Captain Boomerang is your hit and run kind of guy, very, very fast traversal. He's got teleports, he's super speed, he has a double jump. He's probably, to be honest, the most interesting one out of all of them. You'll see a bit of his gameplay here. Harley Quinn's probably the one I know least about. I think she's probably like an all-rounder type. She's okay with all 3 playstyles. This is also set in the Arkham universe. So the Arkham games. This is by Rocksteady, who made the Arkham Batman titles. And spoilers for Arkham Knight. But Batman fakes his death at the end of Arkham Knight. So he's never mentioned as part of the Justice League here. Like Captain Boomerang says at the start, he's listing off the Justice League and how the Flash doesn't match up to any of them. So it's like he's like Wonder Woman, Superman, Green Lantern, never says Batman. So the question here is he still dead in this universe? And is he does he show up at any point in the storyline? Does he help the Suicide Squad? I'm going to keep saying it. Suicide Squad deal with the Justice League. So what's happened to the Justice League is they've been taken over by Brainiac. We've only seen Superman and the Flash at this point, but I imagine Wonder Woman and Green Lantern have the same issues. Anyway, again, 2022, maybe it might slip again. It may or may not slip again. Okay, System Shock remake. So this has been in development for a really long time now. It was kickstarted by Night Dive Studios. So Night Dive are primarily known as developers who take older games and just kind of refurbish them and make them available for put them in like a 16:9 screen ratio, update the graphical texture packs and stuff like that. That's what they typically do. They did that with System Shock. The original System Shock 2 Enhanced Edition and that kind of stuff. They've done it for many games. Just look at it. That's kind of their deal. This is their first attempt at like a full-on remake for System Shock. So System Shock would have been the beginning of the immersive sim genre. So it would have been System Shock and Deus Ex were in and around the same time. So they would have started the immersive sim thing. And System Shock would have led on to System Shock 2, obviously, but then led on to Bioshock. And then the Bioshock series and so on. And Bioshock eventually led on to Prey and etc. So we're looking at that kind of thing. So this is like a full remake of the original. And if you try to play the original now, you'll find it's really tough to go back to. There's just a lot of quality of life improvements that games have gotten over the years since that are just obviously not there in the original. So it's difficult to deal with, but it is still an excellent game and an excellent story. So having it remade, and hopefully a proper remake and not a budget remake that seems to be happening with games lately. So what Night Dive have done a very good job with their enhanced ports for their other stuff. So hopefully they'll do some good stuff here. Their Kickstarter is very informative. They're very open with like development and development problems and things like that. And they have a lot of times they've gone back on things that they've done, like they've made graphical changes. And you know, they've gotten feedback that this is, you know, it looked better this way, or maybe try and do something else. And you know, for their part, they've done it. You know, like they're very much wanting to get this right, basically, as opposed to some other developers who shall remain nameless. Anyway, all right, we're coming to the end. We're coming to the end. We're nearly there, folks. Nearly there, folks. So this is a game I can't pronounce. Tchia. I'm just not going to say the T. This again is a debut title from a developer called Awaseb, maybe. Don't know. Probably not English. Anyway, and in a lot of ways, it's a bit Breath of the Wild. So there's a stamina meter, climbing stuff, big open map. You know, even goes so far as there is a wall with a crack in it, and you blow it up to reveal a hidden area. You know, that is very Legend of Zelda. But a place where it kind of sets itself apart is that there's a little bit of Mario Odyssey to it. Like there's even a hang glider part and whatever. That's kind of everywhere. Like you can do sick flips in the air, so you've got that going for you. Anyway, it's this next section. So here you can take over other animals, and not just animals. You can actually take over any prop in the game, I think. Come out here, hit that guy, and now I'm gonna turn into this lantern. I'm gonna yeet myself into the fire to blow up these guys. Like that whole loop is that looked like it was excellent. How much of it was contrived, don't know. But I think just the idea of being able to just swap in from like into bird, and then I'm going to turn into wombat, and then I'm going to jump back into a human, I'm going to jump into a shark, and you know, that kind of stuff. That kind of, if it lends itself into the gameplay, like traversal wise, that will be a lot of fun. So interesting to see where they go with it, but you know, we don't know too much about how much that was contrived. Plus this is a debut title from a small team, so we'll have to see where they go with that. Okay, last game. This is Trek to Yomi, which we've had a look at recently enough because they released this trailer maybe a month ago. So big Kurosawa vibes to it. So you've got like the black and white filter Japanese period piece. You know, it's like quintessential Kurosawa stuff. Again, it's being published by Devolver Digital, who don't miss. You know, they almost everything they publish is at bare minimum is fun, at least. This is also by a solo developer called Leonard Mention. So this being like a solo endeavor is pretty incredible, really. And I should mention Tunic, Link But a Fox was also a solo developer, so also a very impressive endeavor rather. What I'm interested to see here is, one, it's a side-scrolly samurai combat thing, so absolutely, I'm right there, day one. What I'm interested to see is how the combat works. I'm wondering if they're gonna go Bushido Blade style, and in that you have no armor on. You know, are you going to die like from a single hit or something like that, or is it going to be a bit more forgiving? I kind of want both. Like I kind of want the option for there to be a one-hit kill mode. But obviously I want it to be an option because I don't want to hit everybody with something like that, because that would be mean. And I really shouldn't do that to anybody. Anyway, that was the games coming out 2022 that I am interested in. 41 of them, quite a few games there, and a few I even left off. There were a few I could have added there. Darkest Dungeon is in early access. Sorry, Darkest Dungeon 2 rather is in early access at the moment, and it may or may not come out this year. Probably not, but it might. It might. Kirby, the new Kirby game looks interesting. It's like one of the first properly 3D Kirby titles. But I personally not huge into Kirby, but I might play that one because it does look interesting. And there's Horizon Forbidden West. Again, I have not played the original, so I don't know really how much interest I have in the game itself, but I am, of course, aware that it'll be coming out and may or may not be interesting to some people. And also we have some like new hardware coming out this year. The Steam Deck, which is what if the Switch could play PC games, basically, which will be really interesting to look at. From a personal standpoint, it will allow me to actually record PC titles, because the setup I have now with this PC is not powerful enough to play. Sorry, I meant to swap audio there. It's not powerful enough to both play and record PC titles, or at least really strenuous PC titles, shall we say. So from a personal standpoint, that would be good for me. But otherwise, like just having a standalone machine that can play PC titles would be of benefit. That's what I'd be looking for. Anyway, I'm going to finish up here. Hope you got something out of this mess. That was just me playing trailers for an hour and a half, basically. Let me know what you thought, or any games that you're looking for. Maybe you are looking forward to Shoot the Guy 27 that's coming out this year. Maybe you're not, I don't know. But thanks for watching either way. Hopefully I'll be doing more streams in the future, and you can come by and actually play video games. Might actually be a good start. If you want to know, you can obviously follow me on Twitch and Twitter and YouTube and so on. Streams, the VODs for the streams will be out on YouTube as well if you miss one or want to go back through a backlog or something like that. Anyway, either way, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.